Hello everyone, and welcome to this training of JavaScript. It's a 1-hour training, and this training is very specifically targeted to C# developers. If you see C# developers, they normally come from a very strongly typed language, fully compiled, fully object-oriented with class keyword and inheritance and polymorphism. There are different types of scopes in C# like protected, internal, etc. So the infrastructure of C# is very different from the infrastructure of JavaScript, right? So in this video, I'm going to go and talk about some very important points, which you need to remember as a C# developer when you start JavaScript coding. What I've seen is that a lot of C# people take it for granted. They think that they know JavaScript, but actually there are a lot of surprises in JavaScript, which can lead to a lot of defects. So this overconfidence that because you know C# and JavaScript is same can lead to problems. I do understand that there are certain similarities like for loops and if conditions and so on, but there are a lot of differences in the way JavaScript works. So via this 1-hour training, I would like to point out those differences and you can understand JavaScript much better when you are delivering projects. Now, this training I have divided into 2 parts. This is a 1-hour training. I have divided into 2 parts. In the first 30 minutes, I will run through 11 important points of JavaScript, which can surprise a C# developer. And in the next half an hour, I will talk about how to implement proper object-oriented programming with JavaScript. So this complete training is divided into 2 parts. In the first part, I will run through 11 points which every C# developer should know. And then after that, we will look into how to do proper object-oriented programming with JavaScript. Now, because you are going to go and bear me for half an hour or 1 hour, right? I would like to go and give you a small gift. So before I start this training, I would like to announce this small gift to you guys. If you go and share this video out, this YouTube video out, if you go and share it on your Facebook or on your Twitter, right? Here is a small, nice ebook of Angular, which is of 100 pages approximately, which covers Angular in depth. So if you go and share this video out and on your Facebook or on your Twitter or on your LinkedIn account and email us at questpond@questpond.com. I would love to share you this small ebook, which is there for Angular, because remember, when you say JavaScript, Angular.js is one of the very famous framework which is used nowadays. So go ahead, share this video out and I will give you this ebook. So let us go ahead and let us start our training. So let us start with the 11 points first, and then we will go into object-oriented programming with JavaScript. Point number 1 to remember in JavaScript is that in JavaScript, the data types of the variables are defined during the runtime. Or I will say the data type of the variables are defined by the value what is assigned during runtime. For example, now, let us say I go and declare a variable here. In order to go and declare a variable in JavaScript, you have to use the var keyword. So if I say var x is equal to 10, now here x becomes numeric. If I go and say x is equal to some string, here the data type will become as string. So here now this x variable will be a data type of numeric, but as soon as you change the value, the data type here becomes string. So if you do a alert here, for example, let us say I do alert and I'll say, okay, what is the type of x here and what is the type of x here? If you see this, let me run this. You can see that the type of x is a number because I've assigned a 10 value to it, and after that it becomes a string. So the first important point to remember for C# developer is that the data types are not strongly typed. So whatever value you assign on the right hand side, the left hand side variable becomes of that data type. The second point to remember is that JavaScript primarily has 3 types of data types, primitive data types. One is numeric, other one is string, and the last one is Boolean. Okay, so if I do alert here, I will get a boolean, right? Now remember that 10 and 10.12, even if you put a decimal, it will be termed as numeric. So basically, from the data types, it is very difficult to judge out that are you assigning a integer or are you assigning a decimal. So everything is numeric in JavaScript. So you have three primitive data types. One is the numeric, the other one is string, and the last one is boolean. So if I run this program, that is a number, string, and boolean. Point number 3, we also have something called as undefined in JavaScript. Undefined happens when you declare a variable, that means you say var x, but you do not assign any value to it. You can see over here, I defined this var x, but I have not defined any kind of data type. Means in other words, I have not assigned any kind of value to him. So in this case, this x will go in an undefined state. So if I now go and run this, you can see that I am getting this thing here called as undefined. So undefined means that the variable is declared, but the value is not assigned to it. If you want to go and define absence of a data means that value is neither a number, it is neither a string, it is neither a boolean, it is nothing, it is null. So you can always go and say var x is equal to null, and this will have a null value. Okay. Point number 5, in JavaScript we have only two scopes, either private or global. If you look at C#, we have private, protected, internal, public, and whatnot, right? But in case of JavaScript, you have private or you have global. For example, now look at this. This var x is equal to 10. This is global throughout this page. Throughout this page, this var x is equal to 10 is global. Okay. But now if I go and define a function in JavaScript, let us say f1. And in this, if I go and define a variable where x is equal to 5, right? This x is equal to 5 is private to this function, while this x is equal to 10 is global for the whole page. So if I say alert here, alert x, it will show me 5, and this alert will show me 10. So if I go and run f1, so look at this. This alert will display me 10, while this alert will display me 5. So remember that in JavaScript, you have only two scopes. One is global and one is private. So if I go and run this, you will see that the value is 10, but the local variable or the private variable value is displayed as 5. Now, in order to conclude that a variable should be global or should be private, JavaScript uses something called as the lexical scope approach. What is the meaning of lexical in English? Lexical says that depending on your position of the word, the meaning of the word can change. For example, moonlight and lighter. If you look at that word light, when it comes after the word moon, it is something else. But as soon as that light comes after ER, it is something else. So basically, depending on the position, the meaning of the word is changing. In this case also, depending on your physical position of your variable declaration, the JavaScript decides this should be public or this should be private. For example, this var x is equal to 10 is at the global level, right? So its physical position is here. So that's why looking at this physical position, looking that it is outside the function, he says that this has to be a global variable. When he looks at this var x, he says that his physical position is inside a function and he makes him private. So JavaScript uses lexical scope to decide whether a variable should be private or public. And what does lexical scope means? Lexical scope is nothing but it is a mechanism wherein we look at the physical position of the variable declaration and then we decide it should be private or it should be global. Point number 6, and I think that this is the most cruel point, I feel personally. If you don't declare a variable in JavaScript and if you just assign a variable, it becomes by default global and no lexical scope approach is respected. In other words, if I just go and assign a variable and not declare it, when I say not declare it means I'm not saying var x, I'm just saying x like this. So if I say x equal to 5 here, this variable x will be declared globally, means if I go and put a alert here, I will see the value 5. If you see at this moment, this function is getting called and he assigns the value 5 and I have not declared x anywhere globally, right? But still I can access this x outside because by default this becomes global. Okay, so if I run this, you can see variable 5 is now accessed globally. So this x is not created as private variable, but it becomes global. So point number 6, if you do not declare a variable, means if you don't say var x, then no lexical approach is respected and by default the variable becomes global, and this can be this can create a lot of problems, right? So in order to avoid this confusion, JavaScript developers use something called as use strict. If you say use strict, then this x cannot be used until it is not declared. So until you do not say var x, this will not be used, right? And the time you put a var, it follows lexical scope, right? So this x will be only accessed now here. So if you see now, first thing, if I run this without use strict, it will throw me exception, right? So if I do a F12, it says me that this is not there, but if I put the var keyword, then this works. So basically use strict ensures that you do not have variables which are created by just simple assigning of values, because this can create a lot of confusion. You just assign a variable without declaring it and it becomes global, and then you have a lot of global variables scattered across your JavaScript code and it will become very difficult to maintain. So use strict is a very good practice. With that, it ensures that you have to declare the variable, and once you use the var keyword, it follows lexical scope, and lexical scope is very clean, right? Point number 7. In JavaScript, the variable declarations are hoisted. Now, if you see the meaning of hoist, right, in English, it means that to pull something up. If you look at instruments like crane, or if you see instruments like pulley pullers, right, what they do is they pull things up. So in JavaScript, the variable declarations are pulled up. What does it mean? For example, now look at this. If I say here var x is equal to 10 like this, and before the declaration, if I say alert x, this will work. If you see here, if I go and run this program, you can see that it is telling me undefined. See, undefined means what? This var x is defined, means if I go and comment this code, if you see, let us say if there was no declaration, you can see I can get an error. If you see here, at this moment, I have an error here. It says that x is not defined, right? But if I go and do this, it does say, yes, it is declared, but it is not assigned. So in other words, what JavaScript has done, he has taken this var x and he has moved to the top. So internally, this code is actually like this. So that variable declarations have actually pulled up. So they have pulled up the variable declaration. So you can see undefined again, right? So JavaScript hoisting means it is a phenomena wherein the variable declarations are moved up. Remember, if you do alert x here, you will get 10, but till here x is only undefined. Okay, so remember, in this scenario you will still be able to access the x, but The actual value will be accessed later on, but what it means is that internally this code has been moved up to the top chain. Okay, so this is termed as JavaScript hoisting. Remember, undefined does not mean that variable is not there. Variable is there, but the value is not assigned. Okay, the next point, that is point number 8, which is very important to understand in JavaScript, is closures. Closures are one of those very confusing topics of JavaScript, but very important concept of JavaScript when it comes to creating proper components in JavaScript. So if you are talking about writing good code, then you should understand closures. Now, what are closures? Closures helps you to do two things. It helps you to maintain state in JavaScript functions, and second, it helps you to access the private variables of JavaScript. Let me explain you what I mean by that. Now let us say I have a function here called as let us say fun1. Okay, now inside this function, let us say I have a variable here called as where str is equal to something. Okay, and let us say that to this function I am passing the value as an input, and this value is set to this variable internally. Now remember that this variable here is a private variable, first thing, right? So in other words, I cannot access this str outside. Okay, so I cannot by any chance say fun1.str. I can't do that, right? Because it is private. Okay, so the first problem here is that I want to access this private variable. That is the first thing. And the second thing is I want to maintain states in function calls. In other words, for example, when I call here fun1, and let us say I pass here Shiv, and when I call here fun1 again, and let us say here I pass Raju. Now this call will have value Shiv inside it, and this call will have value Raju inside it. There is no way I cannot maintain this Shiv again in another call. Means there is no way I can say fun1 and get the Shiv back value, right? So every time I make a call, it assigns the value, and after this scope it deallocates that variable, and that variable is gone off. I want to maintain state, means every time I call fun1, right, I would like to get the value what I have stored first. Okay, so two things I want to do here. First thing, I want to access the private variable, and second, between every function call I want to maintain the state. Okay, so how do I do it? The first thing is, if you want to access this variable, then you need to actually have some kind of a function who can get this variable outside, right? So we need to have a function inside a function. So let us say I'll create a function here called as underscore get data, and this get data, what it does is it actually returns back this str, right? Now remember that this variable is private, as well as this function what you have created is also private. So if you want to go and make this function public, then you have to say here return, and you have to say here, you can access this underscore get data by the name get data. So you can access this underscore get data by the name get data. Okay, so this thing here makes underscore get data public, right? So in other words, now what I can do is I can do the following. Some code problem there. Yeah, you need a semicolon here, right? So if you see, really a closure is nothing but it is a function inside a function. Okay, so remember, when you create a function like this, this is private. When you use return, then it becomes public. Now I can go and do something like this. Now that my closure is completed, I can say, okay, go and call fun1, Look at this. You can see here now I'm saying var t get fun1, and now I can keep calling get data. So I can say, okay, call get data here, again call get data. Every call now will maintain the previous state. So I've set Shiv here. I will always get Shiv back from this, because now, because of closure, this variable is now enclosed and the state is maintained. So if you go and run this, you can see this is the first call, Shiv, 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 right? So in other words, in every call now I'm able to retain the state. So remember, closure does two things. It helps you to access the private variable. So this str is now accessible because of this function. And second, because this function holds a reference to that variable, the state is now enclosed. This function encloses this variable, right? It encloses this variable, and because of this, the state is maintained. So the use of closures are for two purposes. One is when you want to access the private variable, right, of a function, and second one is when you want to maintain states. Now, in this video, it is very difficult to make you understand the real use of closures. I'm going to have a very separate video launched, where I will explain you how to do object-oriented programming in JavaScript, and at that time I will explain you the main use of closures. So at this moment, just try to understand the fundamental of closures, what it does. We will talk about the real implementation when we do object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So remember, closures are nothing but they are functions inside functions. Second, closure helps to maintain state, and third, closure helps you to access the private variable. Point number 9, or concept number 9, which is very important in JavaScript, is IIFE, immediately invoked function expression. Big name, huh? Right? So what is it? Now normally what happens in JavaScript, developers create function like this. So you create a function and then you invoke the function, right? So F1. So in short, you are doing steps. You are first creating the function and then you are invoking the function. So if I run this, I will see alert high, and that is good. But now you want to do both of these steps in one go. In other words, you create a function, but you do not see that you're going to reuse that again and again. So you are creating that function only for that page. So what you want to do is that as soon as you create the function, you want to invoke it right away. Again, I repeat, you want to create the function and at the same time you want to invoke the function right away. Okay, so for that we have this IIFE. So what you do here is, first thing, because you are not going to go and invoke the function separately, you don't have to give the function name, first thing. Okay, and the next thing is you will say that right away invoke this function. So you can see this bracket over here and a start bracket and a close bracket. So you can see that this function will get created and as well as executed right away. You can also see that because this function is not named, we can also term this function as an anonymous function. So now if you go and run this, you can see that this high is getting displayed here. So in other words, the function is also getting created as well as it is executing the function right away. So normally you will use immediately invoked functions when you want to actually go and execute some startup code. You don't wish that that function you're going to reuse again and again. You are just creating for that page. So if you are having such kind of scenario where you want to actually go and run some startup code, etc., then definitely IIF comes to use. Point number 10 in JavaScript, which is very important, is the understanding of the this keyword. A lot of times people write like this dot x is equal to 10. So what exactly is this? Now remember that browser actually parses HTML, And when it passes HTML, it creates a DOM inside it. So basically at the top there is a window object. Inside the window object, there is a body. Inside the body there is document, and then there is forms, and then text boxes, and so on. So basically there is a DOM hierarchy created, and JavaScript can access this DOM hierarchy. Now this, what you see over here, is nothing but the top window object of your browser. So when you go and create any kind of variable or object in JavaScript, it gets attached to the window object. Means, for example, now let us say I create a variable here saying where x is equal to 10. This variable actually is attached to the window object. So I can go and refer this value as window.x, or I can also refer this value from this.x. So here now this means nothing but the window. In this case, the output will be 10 for both of them. So if I go and run this, you can see it is displaying 10, this is displaying 10. So this keyword here is nothing but the top window object of your document object model. So people, rather than writing window, they just write this. Okay. So remember that whenever you create any variable, any class, any function, right, they all get attached to the this, or I will say the window object. So this means that window object. Okay. So this does not mean the current instance or something, but this means that window object. Point number 11. In JavaScript, classes are nothing but functions. People who come from C# and Java background, they all have this thing called as the class keyword. So they have class keyword, they have objects, they have inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, interfaces, right? So it's a full-blown object-oriented programming language. So C# and Java are full-blown programming languages, object-oriented programming languages. But in case of JavaScript, you do not really have something called as a class keyword. So here, if you want to go and create a class, then you need to create a function. Okay. Now please note that in the new JavaScript specification, they have introduced a class keyword, but please note that at the end of the day, it uses function internally. Okay. So in JavaScript, when you say you want to create a class, you have to actually create a function. For example, here you can see that I am creating a customer class. It is having a customer code property and a customer name property. And then later, when I want to go and create object of this customer, I will say where cust is equal to new customer. And then I can go and set the properties, and this should just work. So remember, in JavaScript, we do not have a class keyword, and internally a class means a function. So you should create a function, you should create properties, and then you can also go and create methods if you wish, like get customer name, so let's say get full details. So I can say over here return so now here I can say dot get full details. So if you want to create a property, you have to say this dot the variable name. If you want to create a method, right, then you have to say this dot get full details. So if I go and put here customer name, and if I run this, you can see that the function is returning me the concatenation of the name and the code. So remember, in JavaScript, we do not have a class. We need to create a function, and then we can define properties and methods inside that function. Now this customer class, what you see over here, I'm using the word class, but it's a function internally. But because I'm teaching C# guys now, so I want to just make sure that you map your world with JavaScript world. So this customer class here, internally, remember that it is a function, is not a proper class. It does not respect the principles of object-oriented programming. For example, if you see this customer code, it is a global variable. Remember, this variable is attached to a window object. Okay, this variable is attached to a window object, so that makes this property completely global, which is not good, right? So how do we go and do proper object-oriented programming with JavaScript? Because now that we do not have the class keyword, then we have to do lot of workarounds. Okay, so in the next lecture, where which is nothing but the part 2 of this video, I'll be explaining you how to do proper object-oriented programming with JavaScript, how to go and create a proper class, respect abstraction, implement encapsulation, do inheritance, do polymorphism. So the next video is the part 2 of this video, where I will teach you how to do a proper object-oriented programming with JavaScript. So that brings us to this end of this part 1 of this video, and in this part 1 we looked at 11 points of JavaScript, which a C# developer should be knowing about it. Thank you very much. So next lecture, object-oriented programming with JavaScript.